Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled out from under his ship's engine compartment. The hyperdrive was completely dead, and he was stuck on this remote mining colony until he could get the parts he needed. Kepler 442b was not the kind of place anyone wanted to spend more time than necessary. The planet was mostly rocks and dust, with a thin atmosphere that required breathing masks outside the sealed buildings. The mining colony had been built to extract rare metals from the planet's core, but it looked like most of the workers had already left. Only a few automated systems were still running, keeping the life support active in the main buildings. Jake walked through the empty corridors of the colony's central hub. His boots echoed in the silence. The place felt like a ghost town. Emergency lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows on the metal walls. He had sent a message to his shipping company asking for replacement parts, but it would take at least a week for them to arrive. He was checking the colony's computer system for information about local suppliers when he heard something that made him stop. It was music. Someone was playing a violin, and the sound was coming from the lower levels of the building. Jake followed the sound down a flight of stairs. The music was simple but beautiful, the kind of melody that made him think of home and better times. He found himself in what looked like an emergency shelter area. Rows of empty beds lined the walls, and supply boxes were stacked in the corners. In the far corner of the room, a small girl sat on one of the beds. She looked about. 4 years old, with dark hair tied back in a ponytail. She was holding a tiny violin that seemed almost too big for her small hands. Her eyes were closed as she played, completely lost in the music. Jake stood in the doorway, not wanting to interrupt. The girl's playing was surprisingly good for someone so young. The melody was sad, but hopeful at the same time, like a lullaby that promised everything would be okay. When the song ended, the girl opened her eyes and saw Jake standing there. She did not seem scared, just curious. "Hello," she said in a clear, sweet voice. "Are you here to take me home?" Jake knelt down so he was at her eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lucy Chun," she said, hugging her violin close to her. Chest. "My mommy and daddy went to work in the deep caves 3 days ago. They said they would come back for dinner, but they haven't come back yet." Jake felt his heart sink. He had seen the reports about the mining accident in the lower levels. A section of the caves had collapsed during excavation work. The rescue teams had found no survivors. "Have you been here by yourself all this time?" he asked gently. Lucy nodded. "The food machines still work, and I know how to get water. Daddy taught me about the emergency systems before they went to work. He said I was a smart girl and could take care of myself if something happened." Jake looked around the shelter. The girl had obviously been managing on her own, but she was just a child. She could not stay here alone, especially with the colonies. Systems starting to fail. "Lucy, I'm Jake. I'm a space pilot, and my ship is broken. I'm waiting for parts to fix it." He paused, trying to figure out how to explain the situation. "Your parents. They're not coming back, sweetheart. There was an accident in the caves." Lucy's face did not change much, but her grip on the violin tightened. "I know," she said quietly. "I felt it happen. The music told me." Jake was not sure what she meant by that, but he could see that despite her young age, Lucy understood more than most adults would expect. "Would you like to come with me when my ship is fixed?" Jake asked. "I can take you somewhere safe, maybe find you a new family." Before Lucy could answer, the lights in the shelter flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in a red glow. Then Jake heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was the high-pitched whine of engines. Approaching fast, he ran to the nearest window and looked out at the colony's landing pad. 3 sleek, dark ships were descending from the sky. They were not human designs. The ships had the angular, aggressive look of Zephyrian military vessels, "We need to go," Jake said, turning back to Lucy. "Right now." The little girl stood up, still holding her violin. "Are they bad people?" "Let's not wait to find out," Jake said. Taking her hand, they ran through the corridors of the colony as the sound of the alien ships grew louder. Jake knew the Zephyrians had a reputation for taking whatever they wanted and asking questions. Later, if they were here, it was probably because they had detected something valuable on the planet. Jake's ship, the Stardancer, was parked in a smaller hangar on the other side of the colony. It was an old cargo freighter, nothing fancy, but it had gotten him through plenty of tight spots before. If he could reach it before the Zephyrians started their search, they might have a chance to escape Dot. As they ran, Lucy began humming the same melody she had been playing on her violin. Jake noticed something strange happening around them. The emergency lights seemed to burn brighter and steadier when she hummed. The automated doors opened more smoothly. Even the air recycling system seemed to run more quietly. They reached the hangar just as Jake heard the sound of alien voices echoing through the colony's main building. The Zephyrians were already inside, searching for whatever had brought them here. Jake quickly started the ship's engines while Lucy climbed into the co-pilot's seat, still humming her tune. The Stardancer's old engines usually took several minutes to warm up, but today they seemed to start faster than ever before. "Hold on tight," Jake told Lucy as he lifted the ship off the hangar floor. As they rose into the planet's thin atmosphere, Jake could see the Zephyrian ships on his scanner. They were much faster and better armed than his old freighter. In a straight fight, the Stardancer would not stand a chance. But Jake Morrison had not survived 15 years as an independent pilot by looking for fair fights. He had tricks that most military pilots never learned, and right now, he needed every one of them. Lucy was still humming as they climbed toward the stars, her small hand resting on the ship's control panel. Whatever was happening around this little girl, Jake had a feeling their adventure was just beginning. The Stardancer limped through space on half power. Jake had managed to escape from the Zephyrian ships, but not without damage. The old freighter's shields were down, and several systems were running on emergency backup power. He needed to find a safe place to make repairs and figure out what to do next. Lucy sat in the co-pilot seat, still holding her violin. She had been quiet since they left the mining colony, but Jake could hear her humming softly. Every time she hummed, the ship's damaged systems seemed to work a little better. The engine ran smoother, the lights burned steadier, and even the air recycling system made less noise. "Lucy," Jake said gently, "can you tell me what happened back on the planet when you played your violin near those alien machines?" Lucy looked up at him with her big, dark eyes. "They were singing," she said simply. "But it was a sad song, so I tried to make it happier." Jake frowned. "Machines don't usually sing, sweetheart." "These ones did," Lucy insisted. "Everything sings, if you know how to listen. The ship is singing right now. It's a worried song because it's hurt." As if to prove her point, one of the ship's warning lights flickered and went out. Jake checked his instruments and was amazed to see that the damaged power relay had somehow fixed itself. "How are you doing that?" he asked. Lucy shrugged. "I'm not doing anything. I just listen to what things need and try to help them feel better." Jake's communication system buzzed with an incoming message. He answered it carefully, hoping it wasn't more Zephyrian ships. "This is Captain Rick Barnes of the merchant vessel Golden Star," came a friendly human voice. "We picked up your distress signal. Do you need assistance?" Jake felt relieved. "Captain Barnes, this is Jake Morrison on the cargo ship Stardancer. We've had some trouble with our engines and could use a hand." "Copy that, Morrison? We're about 2 hours out from your position. Hang tight." But before Jake could respond, his sensors detected 3 ships approaching fast from the direction of the mining colony. The ships were sleek and aggressive-looking, with the distinctive energy signatures of Zephyrian military vessels. "We've got company," Jake muttered, powering up what was left of his engines. Lucy looked out the window at the approaching ships. "They're still singing the angry song," she said sadly. "Why won't they listen to the happy music?" The lead Zephyrian ship opened a communication channel. "Human vessel, this is Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." Jake thought fast. The Stardancer was too damaged to outrun the military ships, and he had no weapons that could match their firepower. But maybe he didn't need to fight. "Lucy," he said quietly, "do you think your music could help those ships stop being angry?" Lucy tilted her head, considering this. "Maybe, but they would have to want to listen. Music can't make people do things they don't want to do. It can only help them remember what they already know inside." "What do they know?" "Inside?" Jake asked. "That being angry all the time makes you very tired," Lucy said with the wisdom that sometimes surprised Jake. "And that it's nicer to have friends than enemies." She placed her violin under her chin and began to play. This time, the melody was different from what Jake had heard before. It was stronger and more complex, with harmonies that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the small instrument. The music filled the Stardancer's cabin, but somehow Jake knew it was reaching much further than that. Through the ship's communication system, through the electromagnetic fields between the ships, through space itself, Lucy's violin was sending its message to the Zephyrian vessels. On the lead Zephyrian ship, Commander Veltar was preparing to give the order to fire when something strange happened. His crew members began to look confused. Some of them put down their weapons and just listened. Others began to ask questions they had never asked before. "Commander," his tactical officer said slowly, "why are we attacking a damaged cargo ship with a small child on board?" Veltar felt something stirring in his own mind. A memory of when he was young, before he became a soldier. He had wanted to explore the galaxy and meet new beings, not fight them. When had that dream turned into a career of conquest? "Sir," another crew member said, "our weapon systems are showing errors. It's like they don't want to target the human ship." Veltar looked at his instruments and saw that his tactical officer was right. Every time they tried to lock weapons on the Stardancer, the targeting computer reset itself. The ship's artificial intelligence was somehow refusing to follow orders. Meanwhile, Captain Barnes on the Golden Star was getting closer to Jake's position. He could see the Zephyrian ships on his sensors and was preparing to call for help when he heard something that made him stop everything he was doing. Music was coming through his ship's communication system. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard, like all the best songs from his childhood mixed together into one perfect melody. But more than that, the music seemed to be showing him things. He could see his wife back on Earth, waiting for him to come home from his cargo run. He could feel the love of his family and the joy of flying among the stars. On all three Zephyrian ships, similar things were happening. Crew members were remembering why they had first joined the fleet. Some had wanted to protect their families. Others had dreamed of seeing new worlds. None of them had really wanted to hurt innocent people. Lucy continued to play, her small figure silhouetted against the stars visible through the ship's window. The music seemed to be getting stronger, as if other instruments were joining in. Even though she was playing alone, Commander Veltar found himself opening a communication channel to the human ship, but not to make demands this time. "Human vessel," he said, and his voice sounded different than before. "What is that sound? Where is it coming from?" Jake looked at Lucy, who nodded encouragingly while still playing. "Commander, that's my friend Lucy. She's just a little girl who likes to play music." "Impossible," Veltar said, but his voice lacked its earlier anger. Our sensors detect harmonic frequencies that should require massive technological arrays to produce. Maybe your sensors are wrong, Jake suggested. Gently. Maybe they're measuring something that can't be measured with machines. Lucy finished her song and lowered her violin. Immediately, the space around the 4 ships felt different. The tension and fear that had filled the area just minutes before was gone, replaced by something that felt almost like hope. Commander. Veltar, Lucy said in her clear, young voice over the communication system. You don't really want to hurt us, do you? I can hear it in your ship's song. It's tired of fighting, too. There was a long silence before Veltar responded. When he did, he sounded confused and oddly vulnerable. Child, I have been a warrior for 30 years. Fighting is what I do. It is what my people do. But it's not what you want to do, Lucy. Said gently. Your ship told me. It remembers when you used to dream about exploring and learning instead of conquering. Jake watched his instruments as the Zephyrian ships powered down their weapons. He could hardly believe what was happening. Captain Lawrence arrived, just as the situation was calming down. His ship dropped out of hyperspace between the human and alien vessels, ready to help with whatever crisis he might find. Instead, he found 4 ships floating peacefully in space, their crews apparently having some kind of philosophical discussion. Morrison, Barnes called over the communication channel. Everything okay over there? Jake grinned. Everything's fine, Captain Barnes. Just having a friendly chat with some new neighbors. New neighbors? Lucy picked up the communication herself. Hello, Captain Barnes. I'm Lucy. I was just helping everyone remember that we all want the same things, even if we look different or come from different planets. Commander Veltar's voice came over the channel again, sounding thoughtful. The child speaks wisdom beyond her years, perhaps. Perhaps there are other ways to resolve conflicts than through force. Perhaps there are, Jake agreed. As the ships parted ways, each going in a different direction, Jake couldn't help but feel that something important had just happened. Lucy had done more than just stop a fight. She had shown beings from different worlds that understanding was possible. Even in the vastness of space, Lucy was putting her violin back in its case when she looked up at Jake with a serious expression. Jake, I think there are other people like me out there. I can hear them sometimes, very far away. They're making music too, but they're scared and alone. Jake thought about this. What do you think we should do about that? Lucy smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like what she was, a 4-year-old girl with a big heart and an even bigger dream. I think we should find them and teach them that they're not alone. Everyone should have friends to play music with. Jake looked out at the stars and realized that their adventure was just beginning. Jake guided the Star Dancer through the busy traffic around Harmony Station. The massive space station looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly against the backdrop of stars. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many arms, making it one of the busiest trading posts in the galaxy. Lucy pressed her face against the window, watching the colorful ships move past them. Her violin case sat in her lap, never far from her reach. Over the past few days, Jake had seen more strange things happen around the little girl. Broken equipment fixed itself when she hummed. Computer systems ran smoother when she was nearby. Even the ship's coffee maker, which had been broken for months, started working again. Look at all the pretty ships, Lucy said, pointing at a crystalline vessel that sparkled like a jewel in the station's lights. That's a crystalline collective transport, Jake explained. The beings who fly those ships are made of living crystal. They think very differently from humans. Jake docked the Star Dancer at one of the smaller bays. He had contacted his old friend Lisa Rodriguez before arriving. Lisa ran a cargo business from Harmony Station and had helped Jake out of trouble more times than he could count. If anyone could give them a safe place to hide while he figured out what to do with Lucy, it would be Lisa. They walked through the station's main corridor. Harmony Station was truly neutral ground where different species could trade and meet without fighting. Jake saw tall, blue-skinned Andromedans discussing business with short, furry Centaurians. A group of energy beings flickered and sparked as they communicated in patterns of light. Lucy held Jake's hand tightly, but did not seem afraid of the strange aliens around them. If anything, she looked curious about everything she saw. Jake Morrison. You old space rat. Jake turned to see Lisa Rodriguez walking toward them. Lisa was a small woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore the practical jumpsuit of a cargo handler, but Jake knew she was one of the smartest people he had ever met. Lisa, good to see you, Jake said, giving her a quick hug. This is Lucy. We need somewhere safe to stay for a while. Lisa knelt down to Lucy's level. Hello there, little one. That's a beautiful violin case you have. Thank you, Lucy said politely. Would you like me to play something for you? Before Lisa could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and a voice came over the communication system. Attention all residents and visitors. Zephyrian military vessels are requesting permission to dock. This is not a drill. All civilians should remain calm and go about their business. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Zephyrians had found them. Lisa stood up quickly. My office, now. They hurried through the corridors as the station security teams moved into position. Jake could see the worry on the faces of other traders and travelers. The Zephyrians were not known for making social visits to neutral stations. Lisa's office was small but comfortable, with windows that looked out at the docking bays. They could see 3 large Zephyrian warships approaching the station. The ships were sleek and dangerous looking, with weapons that could destroy the entire station if their commanders decided to use them. What kind of trouble are you in this time, Jake? Lisa asked. Before Jake could answer, Lucy walked to the window and looked out at the approaching ships. She opened her violin case and took out her instrument. Lucy, maybe this isn't the best time, Jake started to say, but Lucy was already placing the violin under her chin. She began to play a slow, sad melody that seemed to fill the entire room. The music was beautiful, but also somehow powerful, like it carried emotions that went beyond words. Something strange began to happen. The lights in Lisa's office grew brighter and steadier. The communication screens around the room started working better than Jake had ever seen them work. Even the coffee machine in the corner began making a perfect cup without anyone touching. What in the galaxy? Lisa whispered, staring at the little girl. Outside the window, they could see the Zephyrian ships slowing down. The lead ship opened a communication channel to the station. Harmony Station, this is Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. We are looking for a human cargo pilot and a small human child. They are wanted for questioning about stolen military technology. Jake was about to respond when the station's administrator, a tall blue Andromedan named Kel Voss, answered instead. Commander Veltar, this is a neutral station. All beings here are under our protection according to galactic law. If you have legal charges to file, please present them to our security office. Lucy continued playing her violin. The melody grew, stronger and more complex, with harmonies that seemed impossible for one instrument to create. Jake noticed that other people throughout the station were stopping what they were doing to listen. Through the communication channels, he could hear beings from different species, all responding to the music in their own ways. On the Zephyrian command ship, Commander Veltar was getting reports from his crew that their weapon systems were acting strangely. Targeting computers were showing error messages. Shield generators were cycling on and off. The ship's main computer was displaying readings that made no sense. What is that sound? Veltar demanded. Unknown, Commander, his science. Officer replied. It appears to be some form of harmonic transmission, but our sensors cannot identify its source or purpose. Back in Lisa's office, a new voice joined the conversation. Dr. Ben Parker, the station's head scientist, had been monitoring the communication channels. Commander Veltar, this is Dr. Parker of Harmony Station. I believe what you are experiencing is a natural phenomenon. Sometimes when different species gather in one place, unexpected harmonics can occur. It's nothing to worry about. Jake looked at Lisa, who was watching Lucy play with growing amazement. The little girl's eyes were closed, and she seemed completely focused on her music. The melody was affecting everyone who heard it, creating a sense of calm and understanding that crossed all species barriers. I've never seen anything like this, Lisa whispered. It's like she's speaking a universal language. The Zephyrian ships remained at the station's edge, their crews struggling with equipment failures that they could not explain. Commander Veltar was growing frustrated, but something about the music was making it hard for him to stay angry. Lucy finished her song and opened her eyes. She looked up at Jake and smiled. The bad feelings are going away, she said simply. Jake knelt down beside her. Lucy, what's happening when you play? How do you do these things? Lucy tilted her head, thinking carefully. The music just wants to help. It doesn't like it when people are angry or scared, so it tries to make things better. Through the communication channel, they heard Commander Veltar's voice again, but this time it sounded different. Less angry and more confused. Harmony Station, we seem to be having technical difficulties. We will need to postpone our search until our systems are repaired. Dr. Parker's voice came back immediately. Of course, Commander. Harmony Station offers repair services to all vessels. Perhaps you would like to send a representative to discuss your needs? There was a long pause before Veltar responded. Perhaps we will send a small delegation. Jake realized that Lucy's music had done something the years of diplomatic negotiations had never accomplished. It had made the Zephyrians actually consider talking instead of just taking what they wanted. Lisa was already making plans. We need to get you both somewhere safer while we figure this out. And I think Dr. Parker is going to want to run some tests. Jake looked down at Lucy, who was carefully putting her violin back in its case. Whatever was happening to this little girl was bigger than anything he had ever encountered. But one thing was certain. Their adventure was far from over. Dr. Ben Parker's laboratory was filled with strange machines and glowing screens. Lucy sat on a comfortable chair in the center of the room, swinging her legs back and forth while Dr. Parker ran his tests. Her violin case rested on her lap, and she hummed quietly to herself. Jake watched from the side of the room with Lisa. They had been at Harmony Station for 3 days now, and Dr. Parker had been studying Lucy's abilities the whole time. The results were unlike anything the scientist had ever seen. The energy readings are incredible, Dr. Parker said, looking at his computer screens. When Lucy plays her violin, she creates harmonic frequencies that match patterns we've found in ancient ruins across the galaxy. Ancient ruins? Jake asked. Dr. Parker nodded excitedly. There's a civilization we call the Harmonists. They disappeared thousands of years ago, but they left behind structures on dozens of worlds. Until now, we never understood how their technology worked. Lucy stopped humming and looked up at them. The music people? Dr. Parker knelt down beside her chair. What do you know about the music people, Lucy? They're in my dreams sometimes, Lucy said. They show me how to make the sad feelings go away. They say that music is the language that everyone understands, even if they don't know they understand it. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Dr. Parker, what exactly are you saying? Before the scientist could answer, Lisa's communication device buzzed. She answered it quickly, her face growing serious as she listened. "We have a problem," she said when she finished the call. 3 more alien fleets just arrived at the station. The Crystalline Collective, the Void Hunters, and something called the Machine Republic. They all want to meet with Lucy. Dr. Parker stood up quickly. Word is spreading fast. Every major power in the galaxy has heard about the Harmony weapon by now. "I'm not a weapon," Lucy said quietly. "I just play music." Jake walked over and knelt beside her. "I know, sweetheart, but some people think they can use your music to hurt others." Lucy looked sad. "That's not what music is for. Music is for making friends and feeling better." Alarms began sounding throughout the station again. Lisa checked her communication device, and her face went pale. "The Zephyrian commander is demanding to see Lucy right now. He says if we don't bring her to the main meeting hall in 1 hour, he'll consider it an act of war." Dr. Parker was typing rapidly on his computer. "Wait, I'm getting some interesting readings from the old Harmonist ruins on Kepler 7. The energy patterns there have suddenly become much stronger. It's like something has awakened them." Jake thought about this. Could Lucy's abilities be connected to those ruins? "More than connected," Dr. Parker said. "I think Lucy might be the key to understanding what the Harmonists really were and why they disappeared." Lucy stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. She could see all the different alien ships gathered around Harmony Station. Some were beautiful, like flying works of art. Others looked mean and dangerous, with weapons pointing in all directions. "They're all scared," Lucy said softly. "The people in the ships. They're scared of things they don't understand." Jake joined her at the window. "What do you think we should do, Lucy?" Lucy thought for a moment, then opened her violin case. "Maybe I should play for all of them at once, so they can understand that there's nothing to be scared of." Dr. Parker looked worried. "Lucy, that could be very dangerous. We don't know how that many different species will react to your music all at the same time." But Lucy was already tuning her violin. The music knows what to do. It always knows. Lisa made a decision. "I'm calling an emergency station meeting. If all these aliens want to meet Lucy, then they can all meet her together. At least that way, we can control the situation better." 30 minutes later, the main meeting hall of Harmony Station was more crowded than it had ever been. Representatives from 6 different alien civilizations sat around a large circular table. The Zephyrian Commander Veltar was there, along with a Crystalline Collective elder whose body sparkled with inner light. The Void Hunters had sent a figure in dark robes, whose face could not be seen. The Machine Republic was represented by a robot with glowing red eyes. Jake sat next to Lucy at the center of the table. The little girl looked very small, surrounded by all the powerful alien beings, but she did not seem afraid. Commander Veltar spoke first. "Human child, you possess technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire demands that you share this technology with us." The Crystalline Elder's voice chimed like bells. "The child's abilities belong to no single species. The collective claims the right to study and protect her." The Machine Republic robot's voice was cold and mechanical. "Emotional manipulation through sound waves is a dangerous weapon. The child should be contained for the safety of all logical beings." Lucy listened to all of them, then stood up on her chair so everyone could see her better. She held her violin in her small hands. "You're all talking about me like I'm a thing," she said in her clear, sweet voice. "But I'm just a little girl who likes to play music. I'm not trying to hurt anyone or make anyone do anything. I just want everyone to be happy and not fight." She placed the violin under her chin and began to play. This time, the melody was different from anything Jake had heard before. It started soft and simple, like a lullaby, but then grew more complex. Harmonies seemed to come from nowhere, filling the air with sounds that touched something deep inside everyone who heard them. The effect on the alien representatives was immediate and powerful. Commander Veltar, who had been sitting stiffly in his chair, relaxed and leaned back. The crystalline elder began to glow brighter, their light pulsing in rhythm with the music. Even the Machine Republic robot's red eyes dimmed to a softer orange. Something else was happening too. The screens around the meeting hall began showing images from across the galaxy. Ancient harmonist ruins on distant worlds were lighting up, responding to Lucy's music across impossible distances. Energy patterns that had been dormant for thousands of years were suddenly active again. Dr. Parker was monitoring everything from his position at the side of the room. "Incredible," he whispered. "The Harmonist Network is coming back online. Lucy isn't just playing music. She's activating something that's been waiting for centuries." As Lucy continued to play, each alien representative began to experience something they had never felt before. They could sense the emotions and thoughts of the other beings in the room, not reading their minds, but feeling their hopes and fears and dreams as if they were their own. Commander Veltar found himself understanding why the crystalline beings valued beauty and harmony above conquest. The crystalline elder felt the cold logic of the Machine Republic and realized it came from a desire to protect their creators from chaos. The Machine Republic robot experienced organic emotions for the first time and discovered they were not the weakness its programming had taught it to believe. When Lucy finished playing, the meeting hall was completely silent. Every being in the calling room was staring at her with new understanding. "Now do you see?" Lucy asked, lowering her violin. "Music doesn't make you do anything. It just helps you remember what you already know inside. That we're all trying to find the same things: safety and happiness and someone to care about us." Commander Veltar was the first to speak, and his voice was very different from before. "Child, we came here to take your power for ourselves. But now I understand that what you have cannot be taken. It can only be shared." The crystalline elder's light pulsed gently. "The ancient ones called it the Great Harmony. We thought it was just a legend." Dr. Parker stepped forward, his face full of excitement. "The Harmonist ruins are showing us coordinates. Lucy, I think they're calling you home." The journey to the Harmonist homeworld took 5 days. Jake piloted the Stardancer, while Lucy sat in the co-pilot seat, watching the stars go by. Dr. Parker had joined them, along with representatives from 3 of the alien species who had agreed to Lucy's peaceful proposal. Commander Veltar came for the Zephyrians, Elder Shalmora for the Crystalline Collective, and Unit 7 for the Machine Republic. The other alien powers had refused Lucy's offer and left Harmony Station angry. Jake knew they would probably try to follow and take what they wanted by force. "Are you nervous?" Jake asked Lucy as they approached the planet that Dr. Parker's computers said was the Harmonist homeworld. Lucy shook her head. "The music is getting stronger. It's like coming home to a place I've never been before." The planet looked dead from space. It was gray and brown, with no green plants or blue oceans. The sun it orbited was old and dim, casting weak light across the empty surface. But as they got closer, Lucy began to hum softly, and strange things started happening. Lights began to appear on the planet's surface. Patterns of energy spread across the continents like glowing rivers. Ancient cities that had been dark for thousands of years suddenly came to life. "Impossible," Dr. Parker whispered, staring at his instruments. "The entire planet is responding to her presence." They landed near what looked like the largest city. As soon as the Stardancer touched down, Lucy grabbed her violin and ran to the exit. Jake hurried after her, worried about the thin atmosphere. But when the door opened, he found that the air was perfectly breathable. "The planet is making itself livable again," Dr. Parker said in amazement. "The Harmonist technology is creating an atmosphere bubble around us. Lucy walked toward the nearest building, which was made of some kind of crystal that hummed with inner light. The building was tall and graceful, with curved walls that seemed to sing when the wind blew through them. As they approached, a doorway opened in the crystal wall. Inside, they found a vast hall filled with floating lights and walls, covered in strange symbols. But what caught everyone's attention was the figure waiting for them in the center of the room. It looked almost human, but it was made of pure light and energy. The being was tall and graceful, with a kind face that seemed to shift and change, like music made visible. "Welcome, little musician," the being said in a voice that sounded like many voices singing in harmony. "We have been waiting for you." Lucy was not afraid. She walked right up to the light being and smiled. "Are you one of the harmonists?" "I am the last echo of what we once were," the being replied. "My name is Resonance. I have waited here for someone like you to arrive." Commander Veltar stepped forward carefully. "What happened to your people?" Resonance turned to look at the Zephyrian commander. "We did not die. We chose to become something greater. But first, we had to find a species worthy of carrying on our work." The light being gestured to the walls around them. The symbols began to glow and move, showing pictures of the galaxy's history. They saw the rise and fall of many civilizations, wars between species, and the slow spread of understanding and peace. "For millions of years, we searched for beings who could hear the great harmony," Resonance explained. "Most species develop either great technology or great wisdom, but rarely both. Humans are different. You have the ability to feel what others feel, to create beauty in the darkest places, and to find hope when everything seems lost." Dr. Parker was recording everything on his instruments. "But why Lucy? Why is she special?" "She is not the only one," Resonance said. "All humans carry this potential within them. Lucy was simply the first to be awakened by contact with our ancient tools." Lucy had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. "You said you became something greater. What did you become?" Resonance smiled, and the expression was like watching a sunrise. "We became the music itself. We exist now in the spaces between notes, in the harmony that connects all living things. But we needed physical beings to carry our song to the rest of the galaxy." Suddenly, alarms began sounding from the Star Dancer. Jake ran to the ship's communication system and saw that several hostile fleets were approaching the planet. The Void, Hunters, the Swarm Collective, and 2 other aggressive species had followed them here. "They're demanding we surrender Lucy to them," Jake called out. "They'll attack in 10 minutes if we don't comply." Commander Veltar activated his own communication device. "My ship is waiting in orbit, but it's not enough to fight off that many enemies." Elder Shalmura's crystal body began to pulse with worried light. "The collective sent only a small science vessel. We cannot defend against military fleets." Unit 7's mechanical voice was calm but concerned. "Machine Republic protocols suggest immediate retreat," but Lucy was not worried. She looked up at Resonance with her bright, curious eyes. "Can you teach me the real song, the one that connects everything?" Resonance knelt down to Lucy's level, though being made of light. It was hard to tell exactly where the being ended and the air began. "It is not just a song, little one. It is a choice. If you learn the great harmony, you will be able to help others find peace. But it also means taking responsibility for something very big." "I'm only 4 years old," Lucy said seriously, "but I think I'm ready to try." Resonance placed a hand made of light on Lucy's forehead. Information and understanding flowed into her mind, but not in words or pictures. It came as pure music, melodies that explained how the universe worked and harmonies that showed her how all living things were connected. Lucy gasped and staggered, but Jake caught her. When she opened her eyes again, They seemed to glow with inner light. "I can hear them," she whispered. "All the scared people in the ships up there. They think fighting will keep them safe, but it just makes the fear stronger." She took out her violin and began to play. This time, the music was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. It was not just one melody, but thousands of them, all weaving together in perfect harmony. The sound filled the crystal hall, then spread out across the planet, then reached up into space itself. On the attacking ships, crew members stopped what they were doing to listen. Weapons that had been charging shut down. Pilots found their hands moving away from firing controls. In the depths of each alien heart, something long forgotten began to wake up. The Void Hunter commander felt the loneliness that had driven his people to become raiders. The Swarm Collective's hive mind experienced individual emotions for the first time. Even the most aggressive species found themselves remembering what they had been like before war and conquest became their only goals. One by one, the attacking fleets stopped their approach. Their commanders opened communication channels, not to make demands, but to ask a simple question: what is this feeling? Lucy continued to play, and ancient harmonious devices across the planet began to activate. Massive crystals rose from the ground, amplifying her music and sending it throughout the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, beings who had never heard of humans suddenly felt a moment of perfect peace and understanding. "The great harmony has begun," Resonance said, his voice filled with joy. "The galaxy will never be the same." But even as Lucy played her magnificent song, Jake could see tears running down her small face. The music was beautiful, but it was also overwhelming for someone so young. "It's too much," she whispered to Jake during a quiet moment in the melody. "There are so many minds, so many feelings. I can hear everyone in the galaxy, and some of them are so sad." Jake knelt beside her. "You don't have to carry all of that by yourself, Lucy. That's what friends are for." He looked around at their strange group of companions. Commander Veltar, Elder Shalmara, Unit 7, and Dr. Parker were all watching Lucy with concern and admiration. They had come from different worlds and different species, but Lucy's music had made them into something new, a family. "We'll help you," Jake promised. "All of us, together." Lucy smiled through her tears and began to play again. But this time, the music was different. It was still powerful and beautiful, but it was also manageable. She had learned that even the great harmony was better when it was shared. 6 months later, the harmonist homeworld looked completely different. What had once been a dead planet was now green and beautiful again. Trees grew in the ancient crystal cities, and clear rivers ran between the singing buildings. The air was fresh and clean, filled with the sound of wind chimes that played themselves in the gentle breeze. Lucy stood on a balcony of the main academy building, watching new students arrive from across the galaxy. Some came in small ships with their families. Others arrived in large transport vessels sent by their governments. All of them were here to learn about the great harmony. Jake walked up behind her, carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. He gave one to Lucy and stood beside her, looking out at the busy landing area below. "Nervous about today?" he asked. Lucy shook her head, excited. "We have students from 12 different species starting classes today. Elder Shalmara says that's a new record." Jake smiled. Lucy had grown in the past 6 months, not just physically, but in wisdom and confidence. She was still a 4-year-old girl who loved to play and laugh, but she also carried the knowledge of the harmonists with grace that amazed everyone who met her. The academy had been Lucy's idea. Instead of keeping the great harmony to herself, she had insisted that it should be taught to anyone who wanted to learn. The ancient harmonist buildings had been perfect for classrooms, and beings from across the galaxy had sent their children and brightest minds to study here. Miss Lucy, A small voice called from behind them. Lucy turned to see Tommy Wright, a 6-year-old human boy whose parents were researchers at the academy. Tommy had shown early signs of harmony abilities, just like Lucy. In fact, the academy had discovered that many young humans had similar potential when exposed to the right training. "What is it, Tommy?" Lucy asked kindly. "The new students are scared. Some of them have never seen humans before, and some of the humans have never seen other aliens. They're all standing on different sides of the landing area and not talking to each other." Lucy looked down at the landing area and saw that Tommy was right. The new students had naturally separated into groups by species. The young Zephyrians stood near their transport ship, looking proud and a little angry. The crystalline children sparkled nervously by themselves. A group of small, furry centaurians huddled together, making worried, chirping sounds. "Come on," Lucy said, putting down her hot chocolate. "Let's go introduce everyone." Jake watched as Lucy and Tommy ran down the stairs toward the landing area. He had learned not to worry too much when Lucy decided to help with a problem. She always seemed to know exactly what to do. Dr. Parker joined Jake on the balcony. "Another successful graduation yesterday," he said. 3 more Zephyrian diplomats completed the Harmony program. Commander Veltar says they're already making a difference in peace negotiations. Jake nodded. The academy had been more successful than anyone had imagined. Students who learned about the Great Harmony went back to their home worlds and shared what they had learned. Wars that had lasted for centuries were ending through understanding instead of conquest. Trade disputes were being resolved through harmony meditation sessions instead of threats. Down in the landing area, Lucy had gathered all the new students in a circle. She was holding her violin, which she now carried everywhere she went. The instrument had changed too, growing more beautiful and complex as Lucy's abilities developed. It was made of the same crystal as the harmonist buildings, and it glowed with soft light when she played. "I know everyone is nervous," Lucy said, looking around the circle at all the different faces. "When I first met aliens, I was scared too, but then I learned something important. Being different doesn't mean being enemies. It just means having more interesting friends." She placed her violin under her chin and began to play a simple, welcoming melody. The music was gentle and warm, like a musical hug that reached out to everyone in the circle. The effect was immediate. The worried expressions on the young faces began to relax. The Zephyrian children's proud stiffness melted away. The crystalline students began to glow with softer, friendlier light. The Centaurians stopped their nervous chirping and listened, with obvious wonder. But Lucy was doing more than just playing music. She was using the Great Harmony to help each student feel what the others were feeling. The Zephyrian children discovered that their new classmates were just as nervous as they were. The humans realized that the strange-looking aliens were really just kids who wanted to make friends. The crystalline students felt the warm emotions of organic beings for the first time. When Lucy finished playing, something wonderful happened. A young Zephyrian girl walked over to a human boy and said, "I like your shirt. What does that symbol mean?" A crystalline child asked a Centaurian student, "Can you teach me how to make that purring sound?" "It's very pretty." Soon all the students were talking and laughing together. Their initial fears forgotten. Jake smiled as he watched from the balcony. "She makes it look so easy." "It is easy," said a familiar voice behind them, "when you remember that fear and love cannot exist in the same heart at the same time." Jake turned to see Resonance, the ancient harmonist, materializing on the balcony. The light being came and went as it pleased, sometimes teaching classes, sometimes just observing the progress of the academy. "Any word from the outer colonies?" Dr. Parker asked. "The Harmony programs are spreading faster than we expected," Resonance replied. 17 new academies have been established on different worlds. Even species that initially rejected our teachings are now sending observers to learn more. Jake looked out at the peaceful scene below. And the ones who still refuse to listen? There are always some who choose fear over understanding, Resonance said sadly. But they grow fewer each day. The great harmony is patient. It will wait for them to be ready. A communication alert sounded from Jake's ship. He checked the message and grinned. Looks like we have another rescue mission. What kind of rescue? Dr. Parker asked. A mining colony on the edge of Zephyrian space. They found a human child who's showing harmony abilities, but she's too scared to come out of hiding. The colony workers don't know what to do with her. Lucy looked up from her group of new students and waved at Jake. She had heard the communication through her enhanced connection to the Harmony network. Can we go get her? Lucy called up to the balcony. She must be very lonely. Jake laughed. Start packing, kiddo. Looks like we're going on another adventure. As the afternoon progressed, Jake watched Lucy work with the new students. She taught them simple harmony exercises, helped them understand each other's cultures, and most importantly, showed them that friendship was possible across any difference. Elder Shalmara approached Jake as the sun began to set. The crystalline being's light pulsed with contentment. She has grown wise beyond her years. She's still just a little girl, Jake said. But yeah, she's pretty amazing. The great harmony chose well when it chose humans, Shalmara said. No? Other species could have brought so much hope to the galaxy. That evening, as Jake tucked Lucy into her bed in their quarters at the academy, she looked up at him with sleepy eyes. Jake, do you think we're really making a difference? Jake sat on the edge of her bed. Lucy, 6 months ago, half the galaxy was at war with the other half. Today, I got messages from 3 different peace treaties being signed. Children from dozens of different worlds are playing together downstairs. And tomorrow, we're going to rescue another scared little girl and show her that she's not alone. I'd say we're making quite a difference. Lucy smiled and hugged her violin case close to her chest. Good. The music is happy about that. Jake kissed her forehead and turned off the lights. Through the window, he could see the lights of ships from across the galaxy, all gathered here in peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new adventures, but tonight, the galaxy was a little more harmonious than it had been yesterday. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the great harmony played on, carried forward by the dreams of a little girl who had learned that the most powerful weapon in the universe was a song that helped everyone remember they were friends.